So then what do you think about the branding of your business? So like, in the invention side of things where you went to the convention, that was probably kind of an important thing to how are you going to brand your new invention that helps, people have a better quality of life. Any thoughts on that?
I worked with a woman at SCORE, Senior Core of Retired Executives.
Yeah.
Can't say enough nice things about them. And so one of the things that came out of that was I had a small video done, which will come out August when we're going to be selling. And I ended with, just make every day easier. Like everything's so hard when you're with. And she's like, that's what you needed to start with. That's what it needs to be. And so I changed, I had my logo, I had my name, but right underneath it, make every day easier. So that's what we're doing. And that was, I thought, very good feedback.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think if you can somehow convey the problem that you're addressing, that can really resonate with people, because if people don't know who you are, they aren't going to look for you. So, you do want to have something that sort of stands out, that differentiates yourself. And really, rather than, I found for me, I don't know about everybody else, rather than promote myself so much, I'm promoting how I can help them with their problems.
Yes.
So,
Yes, that's what was the thing was if you eating and going to the bathroom every day, people who just walk around don't understand, when you're in a chair,
right,
how hard a lot of these things are, or just taking papers, because my husband, I'll say, it helps with this or this. It's like, tell them about when I try to move papers, it's not over the floor. That's so helpful. I'm like, yeah, but it's not an ADL. Like it's a frosting benefit. But if you're talking about those kind of things, I think that again, look at the problem and I think then people understand why it's a solution. So I agree with you.
right. And I think people also a lot of times feel like they're alone, in their problem. And when they can see somebody that perhaps, has some thoughts on that, then they're like, oh, maybe I'm not so alone. I had a bad health issue about 4 years ago and used a walker for some time. So I can understand the challenges that there are with, you not necessarily a wheelchair, but with a walker that you're limited to. You have to look at the sidewalks and, when you're going downhill and uphill. I mean, just little things like that. So
trying to get in and out of a bathroom at a public facility.
yes.
So
yes.
like you're trying to wheel forward as you're trying to pull the door backward. Like,
Yeah.
And people just don't like that. To have swing doors. Why can't we just have swing doors?
Yeah, exactly. The opening doors is a challenge. That's true. And so Tristan, you had a comment?
Yeah, I find branding to be such a difficult thing to talk about because it means so many things to so many people. I think at its core, the meaning is really attached to identity in our minds, whether it's the identity of our business, whether it's the identity of us, and really taking the time to kind of parse that word out. Because there are times where I think of branding just as a business card. It is a prerequisite to doing business. And as long as it's clear and consistent, it's probably irrelevant overall as long as it matches what you're marketing. So I tend to have a very counter perspective because I'm very big on disqualifying. You can get a lot of yeses, and then there are counterfeit yeses that you're getting, and then there are people you just don't want to work with. But when you brand to disqualify first, you're going to get people who are more ready and more likely to actually want to move forward. And that can be so hard in that branding conversation because at its core, we say to ourselves, we're trying to talk to everyone about everything, and they need to all say yes. And just kind of pulling back and like, what is even the purpose of the rebranding? Is it to make it very clear what I'm doing? Is it to make it very clear the type of person they're going to be working with? Am I trying to convey the culture? So even in that branding term, taking that time to pull back and like, what are the three things I need it to serve? And what's the one that it has to serve no matter what can be incredibly valuable. And again, because of that identity piece, it's very hard to agree with whatever it is. It could be better. It doesn't fit perfectly. And sometimes just slapping a V1 on it and say, look, this is our branding for the next 6 months. Let's keep a report of what we didn't like when we see something on our website or when we get constructive feedback. And then circle back and then do an improvement loop. What did I miss that I thought I had right about my branding? What did I think I wanted as part of it that I actually don't want? So I think there's as much of a understanding what you're looking for and then reviewing later on and verifying if those outcomes are being a hit or you no longer want those outcomes. So yeah, just adding a little mindfulness and making the conversation wider. I don't know if it's helpful, but what my ADD goes off on when I hear it.
Well, I think that's a really good point about how do you reach the people that you know you can help with the problem that they're seeking, but also people that you want to work with? Because I know, in my job, if I get somebody that thinks they know it all, it's like, then you don't need me. They're not going to be listening to me. We're going to be fighting the entire time. And I'm really not interested in that. If they can find plenty of other people that will do that. I'm interested in helping them to, sort of disassemble their business and reassemble it in a way that it is then scalable and it makes sense. Anybody else have some thoughts on that? Anik, it looks like you do.
Love the idea of V1. I'm going to use that in all. I already, when I'm setting up something new, I already set expectations that, like, I'm really sure this bit is working exactly the way we think it's going to work. I'm not too sure about this bit. We got to keep an eye on it, right? So I really love. I mean, I'm expectations centered. I'm not, service person. Like customer service, like. Reassuring you, calm down. No. I set expectations, and the idea of V1, I'm gonna use a version of that in so many ways, and because people get attached to what they thought it was supposed to look like and how they
Right.
thought it was supposed to work. When you're setting up new processes, they're attached to some bits of the old process. They really don't want some of the other bits. That's why we're changing, right? And so V1 is just, it really brings up the idea of we're exploring right now. And so they don't get attached to any of it. They understand that we're just a test. We're experimenting. The power of words.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of, like, because then it brings in the idea of, like, constantly questioning what are we actually saying? What are people hearing when we say this, right? Is our brand on point? And so by presenting it in that way, all of the other stuff that can be difficult with some people to walk them through and to see them to accept, it sort of becomes, of course, like, it's normalized. It becomes expected because now we're talking V1. We're talking, sorry, my brain is like going, whoa. Yeah. When you look at it from the point of view of setting expectations, that one little perspective turns everything upside down and makes it so much easier to get our point across to the customer. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. That feedback, is so important because, we think we're communicating what we want, but someone else might interpret it completely differently. And when they bring that to your attention, you're like, wow, I never thought of that. Oh my gosh, I should do that differently. Like, I know that when I started doing my business and started branding it and everything, I was really reluctant to put myself out there. And so now I know I am my business. So I have to put myself out there. People have to feel comfortable with me, especially, with the kind of work that I do and their personal finances, their business finances. That's incredibly personal that most people don't really want to share. What do you think colors are in your branding? How do they play
Yeah,
a
I love
part?
that question. I use them colors all the time, especially when I do email marketing because
Mm-hmm.
I use colors like green. I try
Ah.
not to use red. Blue, softer colors because I have did a study on colors and
Oh,
certain colors that you see, it makes you calmer. And green is one of the colors that make you calm or want to buy, make you feel like you want to go. So I try to use a lot of green in my colors.
that's interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I rebranded like about 6 months ago, and I do use more of pastel type colors, the green, the lighter greens, and yellows, and sort of more, like you said, more subdued kind of colors.
Yeah. And if I want to make it urgent, I'll make a color red. So when I do my email marketing, I really want, well, I do a lot of clickbait too. So I
Uh,
add clickbait with my colors, and I get more attention that way, more attraction that way. It's all psychological.
yeah, it's true. It's very true. So then, along with once you get your business going and your branding going, then how do you go about creating what I call your subject matter expert or SME's power team? Like who will be the great partners that, are like business adjacent to you. So like for me, Andrew would be one of them, Anik would be one of them, and Richard would be one of them, because I would have clients that have needs in the areas that they also work in, that I may not be the subject matter expert. And I'm totally comfortable telling my clients that, I know what I know. I know when you need someone that can help you with that. I'm not your person, but I know the person that can help you. And that helps to build trust too with your clients.